The reporting season rolls on today. It's the Centre Group. What are your expectations there? I would have thought that people are still spending, people are still buying, but issues with people taking up rent, I suppose.
Yeah, Peter, good morning. That's the really big question, and you're asking the right one, which is basically, what does this mean for physical retail? Now, we know retail sales numbers were up and up reasonably strongly in the most recently reported numbers. We also know, of course, that a lot of that, maybe even most of that growth, is coming online. JB Hi-Fi, Kogan, Temple & Webster, even the likes of Super Cheap, Super Cheap Retail, those kind of guys, these are companies that are really doing fantastic business online. Poor old Centre Group, though, it owns the Westfield stores and all the malls in Australia and New Zealand. It's locked out one of its major tenants, Mosaic Brands, just recently having an ongoing fight with Premier Investments, Solomon Lew's mob that own Just Jeans, JJ's, Peter Alexander, Smiggle. So very much this is a question of, we know spending is up, but what's actually happening in the centres themselves? And that'll be answered today.
Where would we be without iron ore at the moment, Scott? And I mean, it's all pretty good for Fortescue at the moment too, isn't it?
It's phenomenal, isn't it? So profit up 49% yesterday. Twiggy taking home $1.1 billion in dividends.
Wow.
I don't know about you, mate, but I'd be checking the internet banking details were correct just quietly. If the $1 billion didn't turn up, I'd be on the phone. It's just a phenomenal number. Almost $2 billion in dividends this year alone for Twiggy. Again, this is one of these great success stories. We've mentioned it before, but Fortescue, one of the, we talk about a lot of old Australian companies, the BHPs, the CSLs. Guess I'm not that old, I suppose, but Fortescue, one of the recent success stories, globally dominant success stories. Twiggy's done a sensational job there. And as you say, iron ore for him, for the company, and for the country. Now, obviously, it's all about the iron ore price, right? So Twiggy's doing a great job executing as are BHP and Rio. But at the end of the day, the iron ore price is what's pushing things higher, and we know that can be super volatile. So
it's not going to stay high for too much longer, though. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here. I mean, there's an expectation, isn't it, that it'll halve in value at some point over the next 6 to 12 months?
I think that's the thing, Peter. So, the reality is BHP, Fortescue, Rio, they get out of the ground in the teens of dollars per tonne, so $15, $16 a tonne, something like that. They're selling it for 120. Now, that's a pretty good margin. If you're in that business, you're making okay. Now, what it does do, what it should do, is it should bring a whole lot of extra supply online. If you've got a marginal iron ore mine, maybe it costs you $40, $50 a tonne to get it out of the ground. When it's selling for 120, you're going to start to bring that out of mothballs pretty quickly. So if competition is working, if the market is working, we should see more supply over time, and that should bring the price down. You're exactly right.
Okay, let's get back to reporting season now, and it's Woolworths up this week as well. Coles was last week. You'd think that Woolies would be doing all right, considering it's one of the few places that are functioning as normal, if not better, than pre-pandemic times. Yeah, so
those toilet paper sales should have
absolutely, yeah. So what are the expectations here for Woolies?
Look, here's the fascinating thing. So we know Coles numbers were out last week. Their profit was up 7%, a really, really strong result for Coles. Now, if you're Woolies, they've already said, by the way, their sales were up strongly, but they also talk about their costs being up. And so all the attention is going to be on Woolworths to make sure they've been able to turn those extra toilet paper sales and hand sanitizer sales into profits. And it hasn't just been chewed up with extra costs. Now, the extra costs aren't unreasonable, of course. More staff, more protective equipment, all the stuff that's had to go with that. But that is the real question for retailers. Yes, you can get the extra volume through the door, but can you turn that into extra profits? I think they probably should be able to, but certainly the company themselves have given us a reason just to be a little cautious moving in, just in case those costs did eat up too much of that extra.
Okay.